Hey, what's up, guys? Node Investor here. Time for a weekend live stream. A little bit of an impromptu live stream. It's been a while since I've made an update on this channel here, at least a week and a half. Didn't make any updates before the Labor Day weekend here in the US at the early part of September. And did do a video last week. I've been on a little bit of a, I wouldn't say a vacation, but a little bit of a break, if you will. This is a time of year here in Arizona where, well, especially here in Phoenix, where you just don't want to be here. It's hot out there. It was 105 today. I was out at the park this morning at a little bit of a event, and it was just brutal. That's all I gotta say. So hey, figure I'll do an afternoon live stream. Well, it's my afternoon, probably your evening, wherever you may be. It's Saturday evening, Sunday morning for some of you guys, and so thanks for being here. We will get to it here. Let me post some links here for some of the other folks so that way we can get some more people aware of the stream here. And of course we will do chart reviews. We'll take a look at a few of the names that I'm watching here today. We've seen a pretty nice little move in some of the alts today, some green across the board. It's always interesting to see how they just all pop together, right? It's just all red, and then just all pop in the same direction, but there's always some moving more than others. So we'll definitely take a look at that. We'll do a deep dive into the Bitcoin chart, see what's going on. And then of course we're going to talk the BTC dominance, which is at 70%. What does that mean for the alts? So we'll get to it here. Let me post a quick link here and we'll get on this here. One sec, guys. A little bit of a casual live stream here today. Actually, I was going to do this earlier. I'm going to sound like an old fart here, but I was going to do this earlier, and then I got back from being out all day, and I was just drained from the heat. And so I said, you know what sounds nice right about now? A nap. And so that's what I did. I took a nap. And then I said, all right, then I'll do this here. So all right, I sent everything out. So, okay, we're going. Time to get on this here, and then we will take a look at some of the names that you guys want to look at. So, I've got the chat up here so I can see you guys posting already. Thanks for being here. Amsterdam in the house. Australia, my good friends in Australia. All right, it's 102 in Vegas. Ah, brutal. Yeah, it was 105 today. And it was funny because when I got into my car earlier today, the thermometer, I guess because of where I was parked in the heat, as soon as I got in, the thermometer said 140 degrees Fahrenheit. I took a picture of that and I sent that message out to a bunch of my friends. I was like, yeah, it's actually, my car says it's hot today. 140 degrees. But when I turned it on, it quickly dropped down to about 105 or something. Just ridiculous. That's all I gotta say. It's just too hot and humid. So anyway, Spain in the house, Slovenia in the house. All right, we got some folks coming in. I just sent out the link on a tweet. I posted it on the Slack group here, and I appreciate you guys. For those of you that were posting messages asking, hey, is everything okay, where you at, what's going on, thanks for the well wishes. I appreciate you guys kind of wondering if I'm still alive. Brazil. All right, let's go take a look at some of these charts here. So yeah, and then of course there's this big storm in the East Coast, so hope you guys are doing okay over there. All right, so looking at the charts here, I'm going to start with Bitcoin. Of course we will take a look at the other alts, but let's take a look at the big name here first. Bitcoin. Think about that. Bitcoin represents 70% of the entire cryptocurrency universe. And to be honest, once you start factoring things like liquidity and actual trading volumes and all of that good stuff, there's a good argument to be made that it's actually quite higher than 70%. You've got some names that sit at the top of the crypto market cap, which, let's be honest, are just a bunch of crap coins, and they don't trade a whole lot of volume. There's not really a lot of liquidity. And a good measure is, could a major institution go out there and buy a sizable portion of these coins? And the answer is no for most of those. I mean, if they tried to, they would just drive the price insane. And that makes it really hard if you're a huge institution or fund that wants to start accumulating You got to do it very slowly, very quietly. Obviously, there's OTC markets, but none quite like the Bitcoin liquidity. And you can see here the BTC dominance, 70.8%, just continuing to rise and grind higher. How much higher could it go? I mean, are we going to see 80%? The interesting thing here, though, a lot of the sentiment for the altcoin market has really gotten a bit extreme on the bearish side. We see these moves back and forth, right, where the alts will just get crushed versus Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin kind of takes a breather, and alts have a nice little rally. But we haven't seen what we would consider an altcoin season in over a year. I mean, we've seen very few sustained moves. I guess you could argue at the end of 2018, there was that December through March altcoin rally. It wasn't a massive altcoin season where it was just kind of everything was rallying, but there was definitely some good rallies at the start of the year, right? Cardano and Icon, and it was quite a few. I mean, look at Litecoin, right? I mean, that had some fundamental aspects to it, but amazing moves, right? I mean, triple-digit percentage moves. But since the big breakout in Bitcoin on April 1st, we just haven't seen any sort of sustained move in the alt. And in fact, Bitcoin has been the place to be. And it's just kind of been, altcoin trading has just been boring. Let's just put it, I mean, to be frank, it's not quite as the wild ride as it's been. You get those brief pumps, but nothing like multi-week runs, multi-month runs, right? Will we see that? I think we will. I think we will certainly see an altcoin season again. Will it be a 2017 style bubble? Probably not. But, you're going to certainly have those rallies again. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting. The other thing to make note of is this coming week, is when Binance officially closes the doors to US-based traders. So it's going to be interesting to see if that has any sort of impact at all in terms of the overall market. I think a lot of that has already been factored in, to be honest. I've moved the majority of my funds out of Binance several weeks ago, so I haven't really been that active on there anyway. And I would wonder how many other people have done that, or people that maybe haven't used it in a while anyway. So there's just some coins that have better liquidity on Binance, which I like. I'm going to miss some of that. But hey, we'll move on. We'll find other things other areas to trade through, and things will continue. Will I use Binance US? Probably not, to be honest with you. But we'll see how things shape out. Sunny in Australia, windy Sunday. All right. Jake in the house. What am I going to trade? I'm going to use KuCoin for now. There's several US based exchanges that have a pretty good list of names. Of course, you could go the VPN route, which is fine, but I wouldn't recommend keeping 100% of your coin, or even a more than 25% of your funds on an exchange that potentially could be at risk if there's an issue, verification issue, something like that. And a lot of those exchanges will require verification for any sizable amount anyway. For example, Bitfinex. I really enjoyed trading on Bitfinex. I liked the platform when I was able to use it. The margin, a lot of that stuff was really good. But when they shut the doors, I just didn't want to play the game. I said, forget it. Found somewhere else to go trade. So it is what it is. But, even here in the U.S., Coinbase offers quite a bit of names now with some decent liquidity on most of them. Not all of them, but you have that. Kraken, which, let's be honest, the UI really sucks on Kraken. They need to get some updates going there. But at least you could do some margin there. You can long, short Bitcoin, ETH, what else? Monero, a handful of other names. So, there's options, but you got to spread it around for sure. So it is what it is. Let's see here. But Bitcoin dominance, 80%, or not 80%, 70%. Will we hit 80? Who knows? But by far, hands down, the king of crypto continues to be the case, and is turning everybody into a Bitcoin maximalist slowly but surely. So we'll see. I've been seeing a lot of bearish news in the alt space lately, so I'm starting to think maybe we're due for a good rally here. But hey, we've been saying that for quite some time. Nothing yet. No FOMO yet. Just chill out, relax. We'll see the alt season when it happens, and we'll go from there. So looking at the BTC chart here, a couple of things to note. Let me zoom out a little bit here. On the weekly chart here, first of all, looking at the weekly chart, of course, we've been in consolidation mode. Let me hide this here. Since the big spike that we saw here going into June month end, almost at 14K, we saw a pullback, a little bit of a rally. Now we've seen this little second leg lower. There's been a decent support level established in that 9K range. And so you can see multiple attempts, multiple weeks here, couple of months now, where that has just been where the buyers show up. It's becoming a significant level. However, it'd be interesting to see if we get that shakeout below that level before the next leg up. On the upside, of course, we're seeing this downtrend starting to form. The price is starting to narrow. We're seeing this wedge form here as we head into Q4, and that's really what I've been more interested in. I figured after the big rally we saw the first half of the year that Q3, being the summertime, being vacation time for a lot of people, there's holidays and things just tend to slow down, not just in crypto, but in some of the stock market world as well. So it doesn't really surprise me that we've seen just kind of the chop, the flop. Certainly there's been some tradable rallies, absolutely, but you haven't had that monster move that we saw back here. But kind of heading into Q4, right, as we head into October, that's going to be interesting. It's setting out for another potential big move, maybe a spike into that 15, 16K level, or maybe we get that breakdown, which would really shock some people. I think if we get the breakdown, we're going to see surprisingly low levels before we get support, right? A lot of people are thinking 8,800, fill the gap, then we go. But if we have that big breakdown, especially after this kind of a consolidation pattern on the weekly chart, I mean, it just wouldn't surprise me to see 7Ks again, maybe even, high sixes. I personally would welcome such a shakeout on the Bitcoin prices. I think that'd be a great opportunity to add some more long-term holds after such the move we had, right? I mean, we had a little bit of a consolidation time here to really load up before the big breakout, but it was just kind of straight up after that. This consolidation that we've seen here has been a good opportunity, 9K being that key support level, of course. A break below that, be interesting to see where we really land. 8,800 is kind of that first support, then below that 7,600, so a little bit of a gap there. I don't use it often, but let's throw on the VPVR, see what the volume profile looks like in this range. You can see there's a little bit of an air gap here. If you look on the right, 9,300 on the weekly level. If you close below that, 8,800 is kind of the next support. That lines up well. And then of course you got kind of the big wall here, the 8K range down to 76K. So some interesting levels to be watching here in the big picture. Let's zoom it in here, dial it down to the daily view, see how things are shaping up there. Yeah, you guys are pointing out this pattern. Is it a descending triangle pattern? You could certainly make the argument for that, right? You got these lower highs, we rally, another lower high, we're rallying, we're contained below this trend line, and you got a horizontal support line. So there's certainly a case to be made for that, absolutely. At the end of the day, it's just going to be one of those, how does this play out, right? If we start to break above horizontal price support, trend lines are very subjective. I mean, I certainly will look at them and I will use them to kind of make some early entry points, but they're very subjective. The better price points are the horizontal price levels. So in this case, 11K has really been that level, that horizontal price level. That's this near-term resistance that price has been trading back and forth for most of August, right? If you look at the daily chart, let me zoom in here for us. If you look at the daily chart here in August, you can see we've, once we had that breakdown here, we were watching this little wedge up here and it broke down. We've just kind of been chopping back and forth. It's been a big range, but basically 9,500 up to 11K, that's kind of been the range. So getting above 11K would do two things. One, it'd start to break this downtrend line, and two, it'd start to clear some horizontal price resistance. Very important. Above 11K, then you got the next little level here. That's that 12.5 range. But honestly, once we start getting above that, I think it's a very quick shot past these, early highs that we saw this year. So above 11, 12K range, I'm not expecting a double top. I'm thinking we make new yearly highs if it starts to break out. So, 14K plus is what I'd be looking for if we start to break above this little range here. But you got a wall right here, right? You've got this consolidation here. If you put the volume back on here, let me show you guys. The long-term picture, especially if you zoom out on the weekly chart and you really take a long-term view of the big picture, over the history of the entire price range of Bitcoin, there's been very little trading in the plus 12K range. I mean, it's been very brief in terms of the amount of time, percentage of time spent up there. So there's not a lot of volume up here. And I think once we start to break above this, this mid 12K range and hold above that, it's going to be a pretty quick move above that to new relative highs. So that's something I'm watching on the upside. On the downside, if things break down, I'm more in favor of it's going to be a shakeout rather than the beginning of, this kind of move again, where we see this big drop or drops down to 5,000-6,000. I'm not expecting that. I think you'd see a little bit of a shakedown, but that'd be interesting to see where the buyers start to show up. There's strong support right below 9K around that 8,800 level, and then below that around that 7,500 level. So where I'm getting that is if you look left, you see where some of these ranges have been established. Generally, those horizontal price support resistance levels really make a difference. You'd be surprised at how often price will run right up to a certain level and then start to bounce right off of that. So that's what I'm looking at here. If we do break down, do we get a shakeout just under 9K and then take off? Or is it kind of the rollover, the slow grind down to, the 8K range again? And so those are really the two areas to be watching big picture. Until then, it's kind of just the chop zone. It's the back and forth, the chop, ideal for, kind of the quick, the daily one. The daily strategy I've noticed works a lot better for Bitcoin. The shorter term time frames are a little bit fun, a little bit, how do I say that? They're just not as smooth, right? You kind of get those BART scenarios, price rallies, and then the momentum stops, kind of goes sideways for a while, and then it's kind of guesswork. Sometimes it continues forward, sometimes it just has the sharp move down and then bounces, so. But I've noticed on the daily chart, it's a little bit smoother, a little bit more sustainable, and so this indicator seems to work a little bit better. We've had a pretty good track record since the big rally that started this year. Some sell signals here, and here, and got a buy signal here a few days ago right off of that low. So that's a good signal there. It's still in play. This buy signal will be confirmed unless we break down below that that 9,900 level or so. So for now, it's still in play from that strategy perspective. If you look at the RSI, this consolidation has let things kind of cool off. RSI starting to head higher again. MACD finally crossed over back into the green. And so from the daily chart perspective, yes, it's sideways. Yes, it's choppy. This is a good bounce play off of that 9,500 level. That's still in play. If you zoom in quite a bit here, you can see the 10 EMA is just now barely crossing back over the 22 EMA on the daily. And that's significant because it's been a long consolidation. The last time the 10 EMA was above the 22 was back here before the big breakdown from that 11.5 level. And since then, it's just been a grind lower. You can see it's trended lower. The moving average has been below the 22, finally crossed below the 100-day moving average, which is this kind of pink line here. And prices are finally getting back above that moving average as well. Moving averages are crossing bullish. So from the daily chart perspective, it's leaning in favor of the bulls right now. It is sideways. It is a consolidation. You can certainly make a case for, hey, this is a big descending triangle pattern. But the fact that the weekly chart is just kind of consolidating, holding up here after a very strong multi-month move, this is just bullish all around, right? Until it breaks 9K, I'm leaning in favor of the bulls, not necessarily looking for shorts. And it's usually the opposite for me in this scenario. I'm looking for kind of those oversold levels and buying the dips into that and kind of riding the move higher. But these little moves up have been getting smaller and smaller, right? You had this rally up to 11 or to 12.4 and then the pullback, and the next rally has been smaller, and each move has just kind of get smaller and smaller, and generally that kind of precedes a pretty big move here out of the range. So we'll see which way that goes. I expect things will continue to tighten up into September, as we head into the end of the month, and then we'll go from there and see where things go. So yeah, we'll see how this plays out. We'll look at the alts. I think the alts are feeling the burn, the pressure here. The alt holders, is there any bag holders left? Remember when people used to tweet about all their bags and how proud they were about all the alts? And oh man, now it's like, what happened? Let me see, what are my thoughts on Link? Let's start making a list here. I will certainly cycle through some of those names here. Link, Litecoin. EOS has been very strong here today. Tron is alive again, apparently. And so we'll look at some of those here. your price points, BTC 7,500, LTC 5,500. I can certainly see that. 7,500 makes sense for Bitcoin if it breaks down. Certainly makes sense there. BNB, you know what's been green here across many of the names? If you look at the top 50, top 100, a lot of the token names, right? You kind of see them move together often, and a lot of them are strong right now. Yeah, BitTorrent has certainly been strong here today. So we'll take a look at some of those. But I've noticed a lot of the token names have been on the move here. All right, so let me cycle through here. So what I'll do is when I go through these here, I'm going to use this format again here. What I'm looking at here, for those of you that missed the last stream here, on the left is the daily chart, the kind of the big picture view here. At the top here is that proprietary indicator. That's the BMI index, the bull momentum index, and then of course just your standard RSI MACD here at the bottom. Longer term moving average there. On the right at the top is the 4-hour view. Generally, when I'm doing my trading decisions, it's based on the 4-hour charts and the setup. So I'd like to use support and resistance levels on the 4-hour view. Certainly the daily chart comes into play just to look at the big picture trend. And then if you're a little bit more shorter time frame, maybe if you're using margin, that sort of thing, 1-hour view will make a little bit more sense just because the things tend to move a little bit faster there. And you can do certainly well with 1-hour charts if you're using margin, for example, right? If you had this little swing here, it was just a couple of days of swing, but even on the Bitcoin price, right, going from 9,600 up to 10,700 is a very strong move, and so certainly can't write those kind of moves off here. So that's the layout here, in case you're wondering what all this stuff is here. At the bottom right on the 1-hour chart, it's just a simple moving average crossover strategy. So I've got moving averages here, 3 shorter ones, and then a longer one here is kind of a directional filter. And so that's it. All right, so let's get to it here. Your bags are heavy, I know, right? Yeah. And I'm the same. Like I've been predominantly in Bitcoin for quite some time, and I'm still holding what I call residual alt positions, but I mean honestly most of those are kind of like they are what they are. If they if they just go to nothing, then it's not going to mean much to me, and if they come back, hoorah, right? It's gonna not going to make much of a difference. What are the white lines here? Good question here. On the left, on the daily chart, that's the 100-day moving average. That's just kind of a very long-term moving average. On the right here, on the 4-hour chart, that's the 50 and the 50 here. So longer-term moving average, basically. Yeah. Okay, let's look at some of these charts here. I'm going to go through some of the big hitters here first. Of course, Ethereum, looking at the big names here. And let's look at some of these versus Bitcoin, especially with the Bitcoin dominance just running up to 70%, right? It's like, at some point, it's going to make sense to start scooping up alts again. Certainly, I have not seen any long-term buy signals yet in terms of, hey, it's alt load up time or alts are trending higher. That's absolutely not the case. Very clear here if you look at the daily chart. And most of these, I mean, if you zoom out and look at the daily charts, I mean, they're just brutal, right? Just the long-term downtrend. No qualms about that. Even the 4-hour charts, there's not very pretty. Here in recent time, we've seen some action here. Volume has started to come in here in the last day or so off the lows. Good to see here. You can see on the 1-hour chart, cleared some resistance here in the near term. Very quick spike. Right now, the 1-hour chart is pulling back into some of these shorter term moving averages. That looks good. Here on the 4-hour view, it did pop right into that moving average, is pulling back, but I'd like to see these shorter term moving averages catch up here a little bit. This is the 10 EMA, hasn't even crossed over the 22 yet on the 4-hour view, so very early on in the move, just now starting to confirm, hey, maybe a little bit more of a bounce off the lows. So it's not FOMO time yet, but it is certainly a good sign that, hey, we're seeing some volume. Some of these alts are showing a little bit of life, some more than others, but they're just due. I mean, look at this daily chart. There is a bullish divergence showing up on this daily chart. Let me zoom this up here a little bit. So if you look at the recent price points here on ETH versus BTC, had a new relative low form here over the last month here. This first low was on August 9th, and then just kind of the grind lower here before we got this spike. It's important to note that price is still trading below the daily 10 EMA and well below the 22. So nowhere near confirming, hey, this is a little bit of a bull rally. It's just a bounce at this point. But there is a bullish divergence signifying that maybe the selling pressure is starting to slow down here a little bit. You've got also a bullish divergence on the MACD histograms, right? You got this first spike lower, went into the green as things went sideways, then rolled over again, price made a new relative low, but MACD and RSI did not confirm that with a new relative low. So certainly interesting to note. And of course, on the shorter time frames, you're seeing that kind of materialize into a little bit more strength here. So I'm watching some of these names here. I'm liking the short-term action. Definitely start paying attention. Of course, the big caveat is, what does Bitcoin do, right? If Bitcoin breaks out, shoots out of the gate through that 11K level, personally, I think the alts pull back again. That's just been the pattern for several months, and until it changes, that's going to be the expectation, right? Bitcoin rallies, alts get hit. Bitcoin tanks, alts get hit. It sucks to be an altcoin right now, but that's the way it is. And until that changes, right, when alts start performing on the way up, then you definitely want to pay attention. We haven't seen that scenario in quite some time when Bitcoin rallies and the alts do a lot better across the board. When we start seeing that, I'm going to start getting a lot more excited about the altcoin trades here. So near-term action, very positive. Needs to see some follow-through. It is the weekend, so what I'd like to see here is maybe a little bit of cooling off, some downward pressure, and then as we head into Monday, a break higher with some follow through to the upside. So that's what I'm going to be watching. Look for some little bull flags to form on the way down, right? If it pulls in, I want to see it hold above this breakout point right here. So anything above that would be positive consolidation here for me. Let's look at ETH from the USD side. Of course, things are going to look a little bit better on the dollar pair, and that's just because of the the relative strength here. So if you look at the dollar pair, ETH trading above that 170 level again here, a little bit of a double bottom on the daily maybe, but still below some key moving average here, and still below some horizontal price resistance here around that 180 level. Above 180, things start to look a little bit better. If you go to the 4-hour view on ETH here, what I'm watching here is basically that same level. Here's 185 on the 4-hour view. Definitely testing that. You can make an argument for a double bottom there. 1-hour view, same thing. So things are definitely worth watching here, but I'm going to be paying attention more from the BTC pairs. The USD side pairs are great if you're coming in from that angle, but I'm always, at least for the last several months, it's always kind of been a question of, is Bitcoin going to outperform or not? And so far the answer has been yes. Bitcoin has absolutely outperformed the alts, and so that's definitely what I'm watching that pair there. Let's look at some of these other names here. I'm going to jump around here. EOS BTC, one of the stronger names here today. Again, has been going sideways here. You can make an argument, just like I did for ETH, for a bullish divergence here showing up at the lows. You can see here multiple lows here, lower low. Here's another lower low right here. And you can see the RSI has not been confirming that for the last 2 months. So again, signifying longer term, these are daily charts, mind you, longer term, that selling pressure may be starting to lose some momentum, and so definitely want to pay attention to that. You can see here, this is going back to July 30th here, right, or June 30th, excuse me. So for the month of July and August, as prices continued lower, RSI has continued to rise, MACDs continue to rise, so definitely worth making note of there. We're seeing a pretty good volume spike here on EOS today with this recent move here. If we go to that 4-hour view, just blasted off the lows, very strong move. I think it was up, what, 10-12% here today? Yeah, about 10% here off that breakout point. So definitely worth noting. Again, it's day one off the low, as I like to say. It's not necessarily the start of a trend. It could be, but it's way too soon to tell. Definitely worth watching for some trades, even quick trades, right? On this 1-hour chart, if you get a quick spike down into some of these, those are the levels I'd be watching here. A little bit of a pullback, let things cool off on the shorter time frame, and might be worth even just a quick trade. On the daily chart, I'm more interested in this here. We start to see some of that confirmation. So what would I look for if if I was looking for kind of the longer term view? Let's go to EOS over here, BTC on the big picture, then we'll hop back over there. So and this would apply for any name, EOS, ETH, that sort of thing. What I would be looking out for here is, as prices start to kind of hit these lows, you're seeing the big divergences starting to form on the RSI and the MACD. What I'd be looking for is a clear change in the trend, right? You have this low, and then you get a rally, and then you get a low, and it's just, all the rallies have just been bounces, lower highs. You're finally getting these kind of, maybe it starts to go sideways. And there's two ways generally it plays out. One is it does one of these long kind of sideways channels and really builds an accumulation zone. And generally those accumulation zones can run for a couple of weeks to months even, as things start to really establish a floor. And then what you want to see is when they shoot out above resistance from those zones. So that's kind of scenario one. Scenario two is, you get a shorter term kind of V bottom where you get a spike and it finally takes out some of these lows, and you get not a lower high, but you get a higher low, excuse me, and then you finally take that high out, right? So what you look for in this scenario is this resistance here, this horizontal resistance is finally taken out in the short term. This is the daily chart, but in the short term, it takes it out. Maybe it pulls back, maybe it holds it. Even if it doesn't, that's okay, as long as it holds above this most recent low and finally breaks that pattern of lower lows and lower highs. And when you start to see this dip hold and it starts to take out that high, things start to look a lot more bullish at that point, because you start to establish a break in that pattern, a break of the lower lows and lower high pattern. And at that point, things can really start to build some momentum, because you start to make higher lows and higher highs, and the trend looks like it's starting to change. And at that point, I started looking left for, okay, what are the big targets if price continues to rally higher? And at that point, there's a couple of ways to do it. You can use longer term charts, weekly charts. You could do fib retracements on the bounce. There's a lot of scenarios, but just kind of broadly speaking, these are the type of patterns you want to start seeing off of the lows if things are really going to start to turn the corner. In addition to that, you want to see volume really start to kick in again, right? I mean, volume has been very anemic for most of these alts. I mean, it's just been sell side volume. And even then, the volume hasn't been that great. If it starts to pop off the lows, you want to see that massive volume, right? That big spike in volume that kind of confirms, hey, there's a lot of short covering, there's a lot of big money buying here. And it's been a long time since we've seen that. I'm trying to look for here, if we look at end of 2019, there was certainly some big signals, right? You get these big volume spikes that started to kick in. Look at that. I mean, just dwarfs the prior week's worth of volume, right? Those type of things. Cardano, some of the other names showed that type of signature. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. It's certainly way too early to tell. It's way too early to say, hey, this is the low, but that's what I'm looking for here. Yeah, Forex has been very volatile lately. We actually have some Forex alerts that come through on the Slack channel. For a while, it was just dead. It was like quiet. But here recently, it's been pretty wild with some of the currency fluctuations. I don't trade it quite as much as I used to. I mean, I still do, but it's mostly crypto and stocks for me here lately. All right. But, crypto trades very closely to Forex in a lot of ways. A lot of the similarities are there, a lot of the patterns. And it trades a lot more like Forex than it does like stocks. That's for sure. All right, so that's EOS. Definitely worth watching here in the near term. We'll see if we get any follow through. I'd like to see a higher low personally, but we'll see how that one shapes up. Higher low or a bull flag. How's that looking on the USD side? EOS, it's breaking out of some resistance here, certainly clearing a little bit of near-term levels here. So that 350 level was a level to be watching here. That was the breakdown point. Multi-support level broke down, traded below that, finally getting back above that. We'll see if it holds. The moving averages are right around that 340 level. That was kind of this little zone. So I'll pull back into that, or holding above this ideally would be positive for EOS USD. And man, it's had quite the fall. I mean, it was at $8 here, almost $9 here, just a couple of months ago, and here we are at $3. So, could it double from here? You could certainly see a double. You can maybe see a 50-60% move if it really got going. I mean, it's had quite the move, but is it the bottom? It's too soon to tell, as I said. Let's see here. I'm going to go through the alerts list. What's on the list here? So we had Litecoin showing up, EOS dollar, EOS BTC, Doc, Dash, Ripple, Raven, Litecoin, Monero. Some of the big names, of course, Zcash, Neo. All right. Let's see here. Some of the other names here that were certainly setting up here. BitTorrent. So BitTorrent has been on the move lately here. Here's the USD pair. Long-term chart honestly looks very bearish. You can see this very strong downtrend here. Has hit some oversold levels in the near term. Again, daily chart is not confirmed. It is looking positive from a volume perspective. You got this little shakeout, this washout, quick recovery on very strong volume, getting above, this little consolidation here that it had for the last, week and a half or whatever that is. Getting above that would start to really confirm that maybe a good low is set. So that's the level I'd be watching here. That translates to basically this level here on the 4-hour view here. Going to BTT Bitcoin pair, and I think the USD pair is the better pair to watch personally. Yeah, it is. I don't like the way this one trades here. So that's BitTorrent USD. What else here? Link. Oh, Link. Remember Link? We were watching that key support level, I think, for the last several live streams. It finally broke through that. Let me see. Where's the chart that I had marked up? I think it was on the Binance pair. Yeah, here we go. And so, yeah, Link, you know, it was, again, choppy, range bound, could have gone either way. Of course, on the way up, you wanted to see it take out 270. Never could, never quite did, and finally broke below this support and has not really recovered yet. It's just kind of drifting lower, living below the moving averages. And so next major support is around that 160 level, and then below that around that 140 level. So those are the two levels to be watching if it continues lower. On the way up, it needs to really get back above this support. This is an important level. It could bounce and certainly have a nice little tradable rally. You know, if you're looking at the shorter term time frames, there might be a trade to be had there, but getting into that 220 level again, that's going to be a big wall. So it needs to really overcome that to kind of negate this shakedown. Right now I'm leaning bearish on it, so we'll see how that one shakes out. Litecoin. I'm going to start with the dollar pair on this guy. Litecoin. Where's Litecoin at these days? $70 Litecoin, $69 Litecoin. And of course, it's just been on a grind lower since the halvening. You know, it started to grind lower before the halvening, found a little support. There's the halvening blip, and then just straight down since then. Certainly looking positive here today. You can see there's a 1-hour view, a little bit of a double bottom breakout. You got this spike here on the 1-hour view, taking out that $67 level. I actually like the way this 1-hour chart looks, this pullback. Looks like it's bouncing right off these moving averages. So that looks good. As long as it can hold above $67, I think that one's going to be in play. Definitely worth watching here. And then on the 4-hour chart, it's trying to break out of some resistance here around that $70 level. So Litecoin definitely in play here right now. Looking at it from the BTC pair. Litecoin, Bitcoin. Outperforming a little bit here in the last day or two. So definitely looking positive. Similar action. You got this bull flag forming on the 1-hour, trying to bounce here. Same thing on the 4-hour. Good volume, a little bit of consolidation here. Like to see this one take it out and head to the next resistance level up here around that 0.07 level. So looking good. All right, a couple more here. Let's see here. Tron back from the dead. Tron, look at that daily chart. Yikes. Not too pretty since forever. But 1-hour chart, maybe turning the corner. 4-hour view, what I like about this is really the volume. That's really kind of what caught my eye here, is that volume here. I was looking on the USD side. Tron USD bouncing right into some resistance here, right into that longer term moving average. We'll see how that one plays out. You are getting a crossover on the 1-hour chart, which is, you know, if you're trading the 1-hour moving average crossover strategy, that would be a buy signal there. So any pullbacks into that moving average would be ideal. Or you could play the confirmation and just wait for it to actually take out that wick high on the 4-hour view and over that resistance. So we'll see. Not quite as strong of a chart, of course. I mean, the daily chart is still very bearish. So shorter term time frames maybe showing a little life, but daily chart ugly. All right, let's see here. Appreciate the comments there, guys. You love your channel. I appreciate that feedback. Alpha token up 6,000%. You know, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was looking at, you know, on CoinMarketCap here, they do offer, like, you can do some screens and you can see, you know, what's moving and all that good stuff. And I mean, honestly, like, even if you did like the last 7 days, like what's moved, I mean, it's just all crap. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, there's not, I mean, very few of these names, wait till this filters out. Very few of these names are even worth paying attention to. I was watching some of these, like, I was laughing, right? Like, they go up 2,800% in a day, but they're crap coins. Hold on, wait for this to filter. It's moving slow here. I'll come back to that, but it was kind of funny to see some of the names at the top of the list. I was like, okay, here we go. All right, yeah, Alpha and Hashnet and robocalls, you know, and oh, there's Women Coin, and you know, Dow Coin, and just Hilarious names. I got to give it to them. Hilarious names, right? Kazcoin, Eagle X. I mean, some of these are, token exchanges and all that stuff, but I mean, the volume. Keep an eye on the volume, right? When you see these coins that just pump out of nowhere and they're just, I mean, the volume is crap. I mean, 98,000, $198, like I said, it's not even worth paying attention to most of these, the vast majority of them. Even the top 100 names, if you look at the names by rank, even the top 100 names, I mean, most of those, right, the lower end of the list, the volume is just sad. And it's not even worth pursuing some of those, because if you go to the order books and look at the liquidity, this is really bad, right? I mean, and look at the top 100 names, 1.8 million. That's nothing for a tradable asset, right? 700,000 on a 24-hour basis. So pretty much anything that's like less than 100 million a day, it's probably crap. That's just the way it goes. But it's always interesting to see how some of those are. All right. Let's see here. So what else do we got going on here? So EOS, probably the better looking name today. I'm trying to think what else was on the list here. Let me see. Zcash, some token names. Raven coin. Let's go look at Raven real quick here. Raven looks pretty good here. It's trying to form a good bottom here on this 4-hour chart here. Let me go to this chart real quick. Raven on this 4-hour view is breaking out here a little bit from some resistance. We'll see if it can show some follow through here. A little bit of a low pattern being established, trying to turn the corner, getting above the longer term moving average. Here's the 1-hour view. Look at that consolidation on the 1-hour view. Very nice. So that's what you like to see. It's starting to edge up. Of course, the daily chart still looks brutal. Certainly nothing to write home about. You've just got this drop. Looks like it's finally flattening out a little bit at least, but nowhere near being any sort of an uptrend just yet. Zcash, I think Zcash is the same. Looking at that daily chart, just brutal. Near-term charts, like I said, short-term, if you're looking at short-term trading, this looks very positive right in the shorter term, right? Some nice consolidation, some big volume coming off here, trying to edge higher. I like that. That looks pretty good. Got to see some follow-through on the daily charts, though. So Monero popping off the lows here again a little bit. Right into some resistance here on this daily chart. Look at this. We already had this one marked up here on the daily chart. So below this level, it needs to get back above that to really start turning the corner there. How's it looking on the USD side? Monero dollar on Bitfinex. 4-hour chart has been trending here for about a week now. So it certainly has had a decent move. Bottomed out around 67, saw a volume spike. And that's the telltale generally when you see these big volume spikes off the lows. If they hold up, usually looks pretty good, and you've seen a little bit of a trend higher here on the short term, very short term. All right, Monero, Litecoin, Ripple, Neo. Does anybody care about Ripple anymore? Yeah, Phantom. Let's check that guy out real quick here. Phantom coin. Let me go here. Algo was moving pretty good here today too. I noticed that. Phantom has, it's looking interesting here off the lows. We'll see. It's had quite the pullback. We'll see if it just fizzles out. The 1-hour chart doesn't look good yet though. That needs to really turn around. Cosmos. A little bit of a 1-hour rally here. 4-hour view looks pretty good. We'll see if that can go. Daily chart again. Just, yeah, they need some help. Matic. Matic's been one of the better holding up names so far. I like Matic USD better. Let's go look at that guy there. Matic, a little bit of a pullback here in the last couple of weeks. We'll see if that holds. Definitely some support around that 0.134 level or so. 1-hour chart's not quite there yet, so it's kind of leaning bearish here near term. I'm just quickly cycling through some of these names that are kind of coming to mind. BNB, somebody asked for BNB earlier. Looking at the Binance coin here, I don't like this daily chart. And in fact, what I'm watching on Binance coin, let's go to Binance USD. That's really the level that I'm watching. That's the chart that I'm watching is $25 on Binance USD. So that's been a key support level that was breached here a while back. Let me zoom out here a little bit. So if you go to $25, it was support here. It was the breakout point back here, and here the last week it broke below it, and it's still below the 10 EMA, which is heading lower till below the 22. And so getting back above 25 is going to be very important. Until it does, for me, I'm just not leaning in favor of this guy right now. So got to see that one taken out. 4-hour view, though, however, shorter term time frame, definitely some support being established in this range. Getting back above $23 might be that early signal that it's still going to test 25 again. So if you like Binance, it's definitely worth watching here, as the short term, the 4-hour view is setting up a nice little holding pattern here at the lows. But big picture view, $25 is that key inflection point for me. Let's see what else we got on the list here. We covered Litecoin. Nobody's asked for Cardano. Looking at the Cardano. Let me see here. I'll go Cardano Binance. Cardano BTC here. Eesh, look at that daily chart. Brutal. Cardano trending lower. All right, let's go take a look at the BTC here again. I know I covered this at the beginning, but some of you guys are just joining. Thanks for being here. Long-term view here. Of course, there is certainly a case to be made for the ascend or the descending triangle here on this bigger term chart. It certainly looks descending triangle just because of the drop in the trend line, but it's just more range bound, more choppy. It's certainly hitting a little bit of an inflection point here as we head into October. Price ranges really started to narrow, constrict between that $9,500, $9,000 support range. Above 11K, things start to look interesting. Above 12K, I think things really start to move fast after that. So between that, right, it's just going to be the decision point, right? It's just choppy, range bound. I'm leaning more in favor of the bulls right now. I think it's looking bullish all around. If you go to the weekly chart, very bullish consolidation. You got this pullback here. Volume is lightening up here on this consolidation, which is generally what you want to see. This has let the RSI cool off. MACD's back into the red. If the histogram starts to tick higher, that's a good sign. And so it's been a good reset, been a good cool off from some of the euphoria we were seeing here into June. I mean, things were just, they were going parabolic, right? They were going straight up for a while there. You get the last 3 weeks, we pretty much went from 7,500 to 14K. And after a move like that, it just needs to digest some of that. And the fact that it's held up, it wasn't like a straight up, straight down move, is actually very bullish, right? It didn't do one of these where it just kind of dropped and went straight down and gave up all the gains in a week. It's just kind of been a grind, consolidation. And so that's positive all around. But, it certainly could go either way here. I'm leaning in favor of the bulls, but if it does drop, like I said, personally, from a long-term hold perspective, I think it'd be a good shakeout, good opportunity. If you can get anything sub 9K, above 6, 7K in that range would be ideal for me here. So we'll see where it goes. But for now, it's just the chop. A little bit of patience required here. If crypto has taught me anything about reality, it's that everything is a scam. You have a really good point there. Welcome to the club. I'm glad you're finally understanding. Just kidding. All right, my friends, what else we got going on here? I'm looking at some of these here. I think we're good. All right. Well, like I said, for those of you that were wondering, I was on a little bit of a break, a little bit of a pause, certainly taking some time off. Haven't really missed a whole lot here from the market's perspective, so it's been a good time to take a break. But, it's time after Labor Day, things are getting back to normal, time to get back to work. And so we'll see how things go. I'll try to increase the content quantity here on the channel. I am working on a new course. It'll be distributed here. It's more of a video series here on the YouTube channel, so that'll be public, that'll be free. And it's going to be going over the TradingView tools, tips and tricks, how to set alerts, how to do all the custom stuff, and then maybe I'll do a kind of more expanded course where I actually talk about how to use the strategy tester and all that stuff. Because this tool, if you're not familiar with it, is incredibly powerful, very good. And if you're a somewhat active trader, if you're serious about this, even if it's not a short-term trader, even if you're long-term, understanding how to use the tool and how to make sense of it all, it's just very powerful. And so I think that course would be good. All right. Golden Trump tweets. Okay, guys. Hey, well, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks for being here as always. And until next time, take care, everyone.